everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Today's topic is Sleep Your Way to Better Health. I am Robin Keogh. I am the Acting Director of the Federal Employee Education and Assistance Fund. And the Feds in Motion Challenge is our annual event that supports FIA's work. We have helped over 60,000 feds in our 36 years. We do that through a variety of programs, and you can learn more about all of our programs on our website at fia.org. Wellness Wednesdays are a part of the challenge, which we are halfway through now. We are 18 days into our 36-day challenge. We have over 44,000 miles that we've collectively moved so far, and almost 140 teams that are participating among our 14,000 participants, or sorry, 1,400 participants. 14,000 would be amazing. But we could not do any of this without our community of feds and supporters. And among our stalwart supporters is GEHA. They have been supporting FIA and feds for more than a decade, not just with the challenge, but also with our annual college scholarship program, which offers merit-based college scholarships to feds, their spouses, and college-age children. And with GEHA's help, we'll be awarding over 200 scholarships in just a few months for this year's program. It is my pleasure to introduce Jenny Edwards, who is the Senior Health and Wellness Program Administrator with GEHA, and both our gold sponsor host and the presenter for today's webinar. Jenny is a certified athletic trainer with over 25 years of experience who now focuses on building wellness services at GEHA. She's earned several certificates from the National Wellness Institute, holds faculty member status with the Wellness Council of America, and is a mentor and frequent speaker on wellness topics. She's here today to help us think more about how our sleep impacts overall well-being and what we can do to get better sleep. Jenny?
Thank you so much, Robin. It's great to be here with everyone today. So again, the topic today is sleep. So one of my favorite topics, of course, but we're going to talk about why it's important to us and what we can do to improve it. You've already heard about me, seen me, so we'll skip through that. So even after we've had decades of research, the exact reason why we sleep is really still intriguing to the healthcare scientists. There's a lot that's still to be learned about the intricacies of how sleep works, but we do have a lot of research that does shed light on the mechanics of what happens in our brain and our body during sleep. And that research reveals how our sleep is connected to lots of elements of both our physical, emotional, and mental health. And it provides insights on how we can better get more quality sleep so that we can function better. So today we're really going to spend time talking about how we sleep, what's important about our sleep, and we're going to look at how we develop sleep habits. We'll look at proper sleep hygiene and talk about ways that we can improve our sleep habits. Let's start out by talking about what well-being is. Well-being is actually the state of being happy, healthy, or prosperous. It's really kind of that feeling that we have all the support and energy we need to do the things we have to do throughout our lifetimes, as well as those things that we want to do throughout our lifetimes. And we have 8 different dimensions of wellness that create our well-being. Those are occupational, emotional, social, physical, financial, spiritual, intellectual, and environmental. Sleep can have a profound effect on each aspect of our well-being. So really learning how to optimize our ability to sleep is important to our overall health. Let's look now. We're going to start to kind of dissect what happens while we sleep. Within a minute after we fall asleep, there are notable changes that affect both the brain and the body. Our body temperature starts to drop, our brain activity slows down, our heart rates and our breathing rates slow down as well. And so, sorry, my clicker got excited. Not surprisingly, the body's energy expenditure is also lower during sleep, so we're burning less calories. It's important to recognize, though, that when we sleep, there are dynamic things happening inside of our bodies. Over the course of one night, we actually progress through multiple sleep cycles. And we'll break down those sleep cycles, but we go back and forth through them throughout the night. Each of those sleep cycles can last between 70 to 120 minutes, and there's different stages in between. And it's those stages that are really fundamental in understanding how sleep works. So looking at the sleep stages of sleep, there are 4 main stages of sleep that are divided into 2 categories. Our first 3 categories fall into the category of non-REM sleep. That's non-rapid eye movement sleep. And then the 4th stage is the REM, or the rapid eye movement sleep stage. So in stage 1, you've just dozed off and started transitioning to stage 2. So stage 1 is actually pretty quick. You can see it's about 1 to 5 minutes long. Then we go into stage 2, and this involves further slowing of the activity in the brain and the body. It's still pretty easy to be woken up during those early stages of the sleep cycle. Moving to stage 3, here is the deepest part of the non-REM sleep. In this stage, your muscles and your bodies relax a lot, and the brain waves start to show a clear pattern of slowed activity that's markedly different than our waking brain activity. It's believed that the deep sleep plays an important role in recuperation of our body, as well as developing our effective thinking skills and our memory. Looking at stage 4, this is the only stage of actual rapid eye movement REM sleep. During this time, our brain activity picks up significantly, and most of the body, except for our eyes and our muscles that we use to breathe, actually experience some temporary paralysis. Dreams really can happen at any stage, but our most intense dreaming takes place during this REM sleep. And the REM sleep stage is believed to be essential for our brain. It enables those key functionings like memory processing and learning. As the night goes on, we spend more and more time in REM sleep, and most of the REM sleep that we get comes in the second half of our night. And our body, in addition to having the sleep stages, has a built-in regulatory system that we're kind of hardwired to want to do. And our sleep-wake homeostasis is one of those. And the second is our circadian alerting system. So looking at the sleep-wake homeostasis, this is the technical term that describes something that really most of us know just from experience. The longer you're awake, the more your body feels like you need to go to sleep. So this is because we have a homeostatic sleep drive, which is our body's self-regulating system. The pressure to sleep is building up based on how long you've been awake. So that same drive causes us to sleep longer or more deeply after we've had a period of insufficient sleep. Our circadian alerting system is part of our body's biological clock. So think of circadian, we've probably heard the term circadian rhythm. It lasts roughly 24 hours, and it plays a central role in a lot of different biological processes, including our sleep. Light exposure is the biggest influence on our circadian rhythms. That the light encourages wakefulness during the day and sleepiness at night. So those 2 factors directly affect how much our body is going to feel like it needs sleep. So it's reflecting our biological clock, the time of the day, the light we're exposed to, and how long we've been awake. So in addition, there's a lot of other external factors that can influence that sleep-wake homeostasis in our circadian alerting system. For example, stress and hunger might disrupt our normal process for sleep regulation. Caffeine intake, exposure to light from all of our electronic devices, those are all things that disrupt those natural rhythms that we're hardwired to do. So we also have chemicals that are affected during these cycles. And shifting between wakefulness and sleep creates changes in thousands of different neurons in our brain. It's really a complex signaling system that our body uses to get specific reactions to start happening. So there's a chemical called adenosine that's believed to play a role in sleep-wake homeostasis. And it builds up when we're awake and appears to increase our sleep pressure. The other thing that we see is melatonin. Melatonin is actually a chemical that promotes sleep. It's naturally produced as our exposure to light decreases, and it's one of the best known hormones related to sleep. These chemicals and hormones can be different. We're all going to have kind of varying levels of how they're released and how they work in our body due to our genetics. So that's why some sleep disorders may tend to run in families. But we also see those environment and lifestyle choices that can influence our chemical and hormone signals that we need to get to have good sleep. So in humans, sleep is critical to both our physical and mental development. When we look at studies of babies and children and even young adults, we see that a lack of sleep has been associated with a wide range of negative health consequences. And in adults, we see influences like increased risk for cardiovascular disease, weakened immune systems, higher risk of diabetes or obesity, and type 2 diabetes. So we also see issues with our ability to recall things. Our memory gets impaired. We don't think as quickly on our feet when we're trying to do things throughout our day. And we can also see heightened cases of depression and anxiety when people are deprived of sleep. So all of those ramifications of sleep deprivation offer really strong support that our sleep doesn't have just one biological purpose. It's an important contributor to proper functioning of nearly every system within our body. And we're going to go a little more in depth with those components on the next slides. So when we look at the recommendations for sleep, when you're a newborn, newborns need about 14 to 17 hours of sleep. When you get to the infant stage, that drops to about 12 to 15 hours, and our toddlers need about 11 to 14 hours. Preschool age children are needing about 10 to 13 hours. Now, here's the point where I think it gets really important, because when our kiddos take off and start school is when we start to see the sleep deprivation and the lack of getting proper sleep. Our school age kiddos need up to between 6 and 13 years of age need 9 to 11 hours of sleep at night. And there's a lot of critical brain development as well as physiological development happening in these years. Likewise, our teens, our kiddos who are in high school, they need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I don't know about you, but I've got one teenager left in the house and one that's off to college now. But I can't remember the last time I would have seen one of them get 10 hours of sleep to be able to go to bed and get up at the time that they need to be at school in the morning. So just really important that we think about having those conversations with our kiddos and trying to model good sleep behavior for them. When we get to our young adult years, that's where 18 years of age through 64 years of age, that's 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That we often hear is what we should shoot for. And then as you get 65 years and older, it drops to 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. So we've talked a lot about why we need to sleep. Let's look at how we're actually sleeping. When we see the overall statistics in the United States, a little over 35% of adults in the US report sleeping for less than 7 hours per night. Almost half of Americans say they feel sleepy during the day, between 3 to 7 days per week. In Hawaii, they have the highest percentage of adults who sleep 7 or fewer hours per night. They're at 43% of adults sleeping fewer than 7 hours. South Dakota has only 26% of their adults saying they sleep fewer than 7 hours per night. And when we look at single parents, about 42.6% of them sleep less than 7 hours per night, compared to only 32.7% of adults in two-parent homes, and then 31% of adults with no children. We also see that 32.6% of us working adults report sleeping 6 or few hours per night. And that is continuing to rise. The statistics in 2008 to 2009 showed that 28.4% of working adults reported sleeping fewer than 6 hours per sleep per night. So we do see that there's a lot of things that come into play. We also see, when we look at working conditions, more than 44% of workers in production-focused industries, like factory workers or plant operators, report getting less than 7 hours of sleep per night. And we also see from our active duty service members that 34% are more likely to report insufficient sleep than people with no history of military service. So we do see a lot of things affecting how people are sleeping, the way we're living, the conditions of our work. All of those things are affecting our sleep in the US. We also see chronic diseases assuming an increasingly common role in premature death and illness in the United States. So there's a huge interest in the role of sleep health and the development and management of chronic diseases, and the role that sleep can be used to help improve those. Insufficient sleep, as I mentioned before, is linked to the development and management of a number of different chronic diseases. So we want to make sure that we're getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Studies for obesity have found that sleep loss can increase our risk of becoming obese. Our body produces and regulates various hormones when we sleep, and this includes several different hormones, and they are the hormones that make you feel full. When we have lack of sleep, those levels of those hormones start to decrease, and then it means that we are more likely to feel excessively hungry and begin overeating. With diabetes, research has found that insufficient sleep is linked to an increased risk for the development of type 2 diabetes. And specifically here, we see that sleep duration and sleep quality have emerged as large predictors of levels of hemoglobin A1C, which is important for controlling our blood sugar. Recent research suggests that when we optimize the sleep duration and improve the quality, those can be really important to improving our blood sugar control with people with type 2 diabetes. Looking at cardiovascular disease, we see that people with sleep apnea have increased risk for a number of different cardiovascular diseases. Hypertension, stroke, coronary heart disease, and irregular heartbeats or cardiac arrhythmias have been found to be more common when people have disordered sleep than people who are sleeping without those abnormalities. We also see that sleep apnea and hardening of the arteries, or atherosclerosis, sorry, I tripped over that word today, they appear to share a lot of common physiological characteristics. So we're kind of starting to see emerging science that says sleep apnea might be an important predictor for cardiovascular disease. Just looking at overall growth and development, with children and adolescents, deep sleep is what's triggering the release of hormones that promote our growth. They increase muscle mass, they regulate puberty and fertility, and they're helping with repair of cells and tissues. So when kiddos don't receive enough sleep, they start to struggle with their emotions. They may feel angry or sad, they may struggle with their schoolwork, have a hard time engaging with their peers in positive ways. So that sleep is really important for our kiddos as they develop. There's a lot of stuff happening in those little bodies. And then finally, we have to talk about safety. Drowsy driving is a major road hazard in the United States. The statistics show that fatigue contributes to more than 100,000 police reported highway crashes, and 6,000 of those crashes are fatal every year in the United States. So sleep deficiency really can reduce our reaction times and can lead to falling asleep behind the wheel. So it's important that we're getting that sleep so that we're not putting ourselves at higher risk of being involved in an accident. And it also, there's studies in the workplace with our safety groups that we work with. We're seeing that sleep deprivation also is leading to increased accidents at work sites. The way sleep and our mental health are intertwined when becomes even more apparent when we review what we already know about sleep and how it's tied to some of those different conditions. So when we think about cognitive performance, I think this one, as you hear the science, you're like, well, yeah, of course, we've all experienced this because we know that a good night's sleep improves our ability to concentrate. We feel more creative, we're able to take in and learn new skills. And when we don't have enough rest, we have a hard time paying attention. We're more likely to commit errors when we're trying to do our work during the day. We also see effect of memory consolidation. What we mean here is sleep is essential for processing our memories. And I always like to use the example of, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, it's the one with joy is one of the brain pieces, the emotions, and there's the young girl. And it's a very simplified way that shows really clearly how you think about when the character goes to sleep at night and they're all carrying around their little balls and putting them in place for where they're supposed to go. That's really how our brain is working. It's processing our memories. It's determining where they're going to live in our brain and how we're going to be able, what parts of the brain we're going to be using to recall that memory. So a lot of that really is happening at night. Sleep is essential because we don't do that when we're awake. During that third non-rapid eye movement stage of our sleep cycle, our brain begins to consolidate and organize all of our memories. And then we have the rapid eye movement stage that follows, and that really is where we cement those memories in. So that's where our brain says, this is where they're going to live and how you're going to recall it. When we don't get enough sleep, that affects our ability to be able to recall those important details while we're awake. Sleep also affects depression. It's estimated that over 300 million people worldwide have depression, and around 75% of people with depression also suffer from insomnia. They also suffer from excessive daytime sleepiness very often as well. So historically, we've thought of sleeping problems as a consequence of depression. But the research is providing growing evidence that suggests poor sleep actually can induce or exacerbate depression. So they're kind of turning how they look at that cause and effect relationship between sleep and depression. They're seeing that they're really more mutually reinforcing than was previously thought. And then we also see the anxiety disorders being affected. Anxiety disorders in America affect about 20 to 25% of adults and teenagers every year. These disorders create excessive fear and worry that interfere with our everyday life and ability to function throughout our days. We see a high association between sleep problems and anxiety disorders. The worry and the fear contribute to a state of hyperarousal, and that is when our mind is racing, and that leads to insomnia. Sleep problems can become then an added source of worry. You start to get anticipatory anxiety at bedtime, so it makes it even harder to fall asleep because you're worried about the fact that you're not going to go to sleep and that you can't get your brain to shut down. So almost all of us have encountered different zombie-like feelings after we've had a night or two of minimal or no sleep. But even after just one night without enough rest, we can feel drowsy the next day. We feel like we're slower in our thinking. we may lack energy, and we might be a little more irritable. But sleep deprivation is when we actually don't get the sleep we need. And it's affected about 1/3 of American adults right now. So that means that about 1/3 of us are regularly not getting enough sleep. This lack of sleep directly affects how we think and feel. And those short-term impacts are noticeable, right? We're shorter with our temper, feel like we just want to lay down and take a nap. We may feel more hungry, but they can heighten the long-term risk of different physical and mental health problems. And we've covered those in that relation. There's lots of different things that can contribute to our sleep deprivation, but we also want to make sure we're looking at ways that we can improve our sleep and looking at ways that we're making good lifestyle choices that are going to help us be able to get better sleep. So before we start kind of transitioning into how to improve our sleep hygiene, I just like you, and you can do this throughout as we're talking through these next few slides, just share some of the things that you do at night. I see somebody's already started talking about they limit their screen time, turning off the Wi-Fi at home, and those are great ideas. Just share any ideas you have that you can use that you find help you get better sleep at night. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we have those set schedules. Set schedules normalize sleep as an essential part of our day. So they make us remember that sleep isn't like some kind of reward or something we get to do when we finish everything else. It's actually essential to us, and we need to set time for it. Our brain and our body then will get accustomed to getting that full amount of sleep that we need. Having a fixed wake-up time, regardless of whether it's a weekday or weekend, try to wake up around the same time every day. We talked about that circadian rhythm that we have. When we have that fluctuating schedule, it keeps us from getting into that rhythm of consistent sleep. We also want to make sure we're prioritizing our sleep. I mentioned that. It can be tempting to make sleep the thing that we skip in order to finish the work project or study for a test, socialize with people that we haven't seen at night, and find ways to get together with other people, catch up on the show that we've been wanting to watch. But we want to make sure that we're calculating our bedtime based on when we know we have to wake up. So most of us know we have to get up at a certain time to be at work or school, whatever time we have to be there. So we know that our wake-up time is fixed. So we need to make sure that we're calculating and adjusting our bedtime to coordinate getting at least that 7 hours of sleep each night, so that we can not go into sleep deprivation and we can have better overall health. As we do this, if you're somebody who's currently lacking a couple hours of sleep every night and you want to start shifting, make gradual adjustments. Don't try to do it all in one fell swoop, because again, that's going to throw our rhythm out of whack. Our body's not used to that, even though it's probably craving it. It's not used to it. So it's going to start to throw you out of whack. It's also going to throw your schedule out of whack. If there's things that you usually do in the evening that all of a sudden you have to kind of cut off or think about how to adjust how that happens, doing that gradually is going to be much easier. So step by step, even 15-minute increments, 30-minute increments, so that you can get adjusted up to that 7 hours to get yourself into that new schedule. When we talk about naps, we want to make sure we're not overdoing it. They can be a handy way to regain a little bit of energy throughout our day, but they can also throw off our sleep at night. So we want to make sure we're keeping those naps relatively short, and we limit them to early afternoon at the latest during your day. What we don't want to do is come home and fall asleep on the couch for an hour, hour and a half when we turn on our TV at night. That's what's going to keep us from being able to go to sleep when we should go to sleep. I'm seeing some great comments coming in, using a sound machine, meditative sleep sounds. These are all great ideas. So let's look at how we prepare for bed at night, kind of that nighttime schedule, getting ourselves set up. Once we start to prepare, it's going to help us determine how easily we can fall asleep. there's kind of a pre-sleep playbook, if you will, that has some tips that can start to help you wind down. And all of these things that you guys are sharing in the chat are great, and these are just some ideas that can go with that. Again, consistency. I joke about, I love turtles, and I've told various variations of the tortoise and the hare story as it can relate to wellness over the years in my career, but consistency is key. When we follow the same steps each night, simple things like putting on your pajamas, brushing your teeth, that helps reinforce to your brain that it's bedtime. Think about what we do with our kiddos when they're little. You know, we brush their teeth, we get them in their pajamas, we take them to bed, maybe read a couple books. That's a routine that's helping them recognize that it is bedtime. That same thing works for us as adults. Our brain starts to send those triggers. That melatonin starts to ramp up. If we start to dim lights and do things like that, gets us ready to go to bed. We also want to try to give ourselves about 30 minutes to wind down. Take advantage of whatever puts you in a calm state during that 30 minutes. It can be listening to some soft music. Doing light stretching is fantastic. It relaxes the muscles. Doing some reading. Now, my caveat with reading, for those people who like to use e-readers, I would love for you to actually pick up a paper book, because the light that we get from our electronics is one of those things that keeps us awake at night. So we want to try to limit that as much as we can. And there's some relaxation exercises that are great too, and we'll talk a little bit. We're actually going to practice a real quick breathing technique here in a couple minutes. So dimming our lights. Remember that circadian rhythm. So we want to try to keep away from the bright lights because they hinder that production of melatonin that triggers our body to start to fall asleep. So we want to make sure that we're limiting lights, and that includes our electronics. We want to have that 30 to 60 minute buffer time that's device free. And that's for multiple reasons. Again, when we're answering emails, when we're triggering our brain and keeping it going and creating new thoughts processes or trying to put out fires, that doesn't allow our brain to start to shut down. Likewise, we get that blue light generated from the electronics that can decrease the melatonin production. So we want to try to eliminate that. And then using different methods of relaxation. One of the things that we get caught up in sometimes when we're trying to get ourselves to sleep more is making the actual act of falling asleep our goal. If we change that focus to, I'm going to relax, it's usually easier for us to fall asleep. When we've all had those nights where we look at the clock and it's, okay, it's 1:30. If I fall asleep right now, I can get 4 hours of sleep. And then we do that countdown every time we look at the clock. Instead of focusing on that, focus on what can I do to relax. So there's lots of different things you can do. And I'm just going to, on the next slide here, we're going to talk through a couple of different quick breathing techniques that you can use to help yourself relax. So essentially what these techniques are a form of meditation. And it's just kind of that practice of mind-body connection that increases calmness and relaxation. So one of the things that I want you to try to do today is just go ahead and get comfortable. We're just going to do a really quick breathing exercise. So just go ahead and get comfortable. If you're sitting down, just get comfortable in your chair. If you want to stand up, you can stand up. You could even lay down on the floor if you have a room to do that. I want you to place your right palm over your chest and your left palm over your stomach, just above your belly button. And we're going to breathe in through our noses to a count of 3, and then exhale out through our mouth for a count of 5. So breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, and out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you breathe in, you can think of calm, peace, and stillness. And when you breathe out, Think about releasing negative energy or anxiety. As you breathe in through your nose, you should feel the hand that's on your stomach rise a little bit. The hand that's on your chest should stay nice and still. We want that breath to go nice and deep into our diaphragm. So breathing in, 2, 3, and exhaling out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and you could continue with that anywhere. That's just a quick, you can take it. I've been known to sit at my desk and all of a sudden notice my shoulders are up at my ears because I've been working away. Just stop and set yourself, nice and comfortable, and just do 2 or 3 of those nice deep breaths, and it relaxes your shoulders. It kind of refocuses your brain, and you feel like you're ready to move forward during your day. Also at night, it's just a good thing just to help you relax because it's naturally going to bring those shoulders down, relax those neck muscles. And that extra air is taking oxygen through your body that's helping the rest of your body. So let's look a little bit about our actual bedroom. When we go to sleep at night, how we can set up the environment that we're in. We want our bedroom to feel tranquil, to not feel like a place of chaos. But what's truly inviting and calming to one person can vary greatly. So these tips are just general ideas, but remember, just think about things that relax you and what you could do with your room. You don't have to spend a ton of money to make your room feel more relaxing and calming. Some of the things that we can do, though, are try to have a comfortable mattress and pillow. And if your mattress is worn out, one more economical way to make it feel a little more comfortable can just be to get a mattress topper to make that top feel a little bit more soft. Because our sleeping surface does help with comfort and pain-free sleep. So we want to make sure that when we lay down, we're actually comfortable on the mattress and the pillow that we're using. Quality bedding can be helpful as well, but really sheets and blankets, again, we talk about all of this being very personalized. What's comfortable to one thing may not be comfortable to another. And I love to I pick on my daughter in this one because she literally sleeps on Sherpa all year long. Middle of summer, she wants a Sherpa blanket under her with some type of fuzzy thing on top of her because she just loves that soft feeling. Likewise, my husband would sleep on thin cotton sheets all year if I would share the bed with him like that. But just remember, find sheets that feel comfortable to you so that you can have the temperature you want and the feel you want is very important. When we think about temperature, we do sleep better. They've done lots of scientific experiments to see what the optimal temperature is. And actually, we sleep better when the temperature is between 65 and 67 degrees in our houses at night. What that does is cool our body down. It helps our body stay cool. And then if you're somebody who runs on the cool side, you're typically going to be able to sleep better still when it's that cool because you can put a blanket over you. So that cooler temperature, using fans, things like that to help keep the room more cool is helpful. Blocking out our light, again, we go back to that circadian rhythm. Light makes us want to be awake naturally. So we want to make sure that we're blocking out light as much as we can. If it's still light outside, I know there are times of the year when I go to bed that the sun's still not completely set sometimes. So using heavy curtains or even an eye mask can help prevent. And it seems like everything we own has some type of light on it now, right? If you have a TV in your bedroom, there's a light on it. The clock on your room probably has a light. Even in the winter, when we turn on our humidifier in the room, there's a little light that you can't get to go off. So you can cover those with tape, anything that will help you block out those extra lights that are in your room that can make it darker and easier to go to sleep. Likewise, drowning out noise. If you're somebody who's easily aroused by noises, sometimes earplugs can be helpful to block that noise and keeping you from waking up. If you don't find earplugs comfortable or you have trouble with those, sometimes those white noise machines, and some of you have listed that in the chat box as something that you use. White noise machines, even a fan, can help drown out some of those other sounds that may wake you up at night. And some people find calming scents helpful. Smells like lavender. Lavender actually is scientifically shown to induce a calming state, but if you want to use calming scents, some people find that very helpful, just to help themselves wind down and relax in their rooms. So things that we can do while we're awake. It's not just our bedtime habits. It's all of those things that we do during the day that are really going to help support our circadian rhythms and limit sleep disruptions. And again, we go to light exposure. Getting exposure to especially sunlight, that's one of the key rhythms to our circadian rhythms. And so when we get exposure to light during the day when we're supposed to have it, our body responds more not drastically, but we respond better when that light starts to go away. So if we're not exposed to light during the day, our body doesn't notice when it gets dark as well. So that release of melatonin isn't as strong. So when we can expose ourselves to light during the day, our body really does recognize more when the light starts to go away. Also, keeping ourselves physically active. It not only strengthens our physical health, but it helps us handle stress. It helps us sleep better. It releases endorphins, which are happy hormones. They kind of help lift our mood throughout the day. So when we can keep ourselves going, we want to make sure that we're getting that physical activity. Likewise, we want to limit tobacco products. Nicotine stimulates the bodies in the ways that disrupt sleep. So that does, if you've known somebody who has been a smoker or a tobacco user, you probably recognize that they've had sleep problems. So we know that nicotine disrupts sleep. Likewise, we want to make sure that we're watching how much alcohol we consume. Alcohol does make it easier to fall asleep, but that effect wears off. And so it actually disrupts our natural sleep patterns later in the night. So we want to make sure that we're moderating or avoiding our alcohol consumption later in the evenings. Caffeine is also a stimulant. So we know we rely on caffeine. We often joke about having to have that first cup of coffee in the morning, but we do want to make sure we're watching what we're drinking in terms of caffeinated beverages later in the day, because it is that stimulant. It's going to disrupt that natural circadian rhythm. When we eat is also important. When we have dinner late in the evening, especially if it's a big, heavy meal, that means that our stomach is still being active and digesting when we lay down to go to sleep. So when our brain's trying to tell it to calm down, it's responding back to the brain going, nope, still working. We got food in here to digest. So you've got a kind of a battle going on and your body doesn't naturally wind down. So we want to make sure that in general, if you snack within an hour or two before bedtime, that you're keeping it light and eating things that aren't going to sit heavily in your stomach. And then limiting that in-bed activity. We kind of want to make sure, this goes a little bit with the bedroom setup, but remember that our beds are for us to sleep. So trying to limit, don't get in bed and eat. Try not to watch all of your evening TV while you're in bed. Try not to bring work and work on work once you crawl into bed. All of those things are going to help make it easier and help trigger your brain that, hey, I'm getting into my bed now. It's time to go to sleep. And we want to talk a little bit about nutrition because poor eating does interfere with our sleep cycle more than just when we eat. What we put in our body is important. Again, the late night snacking is going to make sure that we want to make sure that we're not doing that so that our stomach isn't still trying to process all of our food. If we are going to have a snack closer to bedtime, we want to look at things like fruit or a nut butter, hands full of nuts, some trail mix, some yogurt or berries, things that our body's going to be able to utilize and not sit in there really heavily. We also want to make sure that we're getting just overall a healthy diet. A healthy diet is going to help us be able to get the nutrients we need so that everything in our body is working as it should, and make sure that we've got optimal health so that all of our systems are working properly. So all of the things that we've talked about today really are going to be able to help you improve your sleep. They're going to help you take those breaks and be able to get more energy during the day. So just remember, you don't have to change everything at once. There's lots of little things that we can do to help enhance our sleep quality. Try one or two things at a time. Maybe it's getting some earplugs or trying a white noise machine. Maybe it's setting aside a few minutes each day to take that breathing break, to get a little bit of pause. Maybe it's looking at how exercise can fit in. Taking some walks during the day to see if you start to see some changes, or setting an alarm. We talk about alarms for waking up. Maybe if we're trying to change our evening routine, we set that alarm to remind us to take a break from whatever we're doing and start to get wound down and ready for sleep. There are some great sleep apps that you can try. We've listed some of them here. These have great features on them that can help you track your sleep cycles. They also have different platforms. You can get music to help you fall asleep at night, or I know the Calm app even you can have your favorite star read you a bedtime story, things like that. Headspace is great. It guides users through different mindfulness practice that you can use, meditations for sleep. So a lot of them have lots of great things that you can utilize, and they do have both free and purchase platforms. So you can purchase a premium platform that allows you to do a little bit more with the content that's on the app. But these are all things that we recommend you try. They can be really helpful just throughout your day to give yourself a mindfulness minute and to help you wind down and get ready for sleep at night. We at GEHA certainly want to support you in your wellness goals. So on this slide, we have a list of our member resources, and you can always learn more at geha.com. So thank you very much for joining us today. We do have a few moments. We can answer some of the questions that came in.
Hi, Jenny. One quick question from Stacy. Does magnesium supplement help with sleep?
Magnesium can help with sleep. There's not a lot of science behind how exactly it works, but there are anecdotal stories that do show that people can respond and get help from sleep with magnesium. I always recommend, whenever you're going to look at using supplements for sleep or for anything, that you do talk to your doctor and or pharmacist about any other medications that you might be on, to make sure that they're not going to counteract negatively with anything that you might already be taking.
And there was a question earlier from Serena, and you did discuss it a little bit later about getting into routines. She was asking about her 16-year-old getting him to go to bed at a reasonable time, and she was turning off the Wi-Fi and screen time. Again, you talked about routines and setting up the room for that. Any other advice for working with kids and bedtimes?
Gosh, I feel your pain. I've got a 19 and a 17-year-old now, but so I've been there. I know what you're feeling. It's hard because they come home with a lot of homework. They have hours of homework typically to do. If they're in activities, they're at school later, so they can't start on that. So it can be hard to pick that battle. But I love your idea, the creativity of shutting off Wi-Fi. I know my kids didn't like it, but we kind of watched them hard and made sure that when they did get home that they were using that time for homework, and then they had their wind down time, maybe a few minutes of screen time. But we were pretty strict, and unfortunately you kind of have to be to get them to understand how much better their body feels. If you can get through that hard period of getting them to do it, they will start to see the change in how they feel, and they may not ever tell you, but I think they'll appreciate it.
Do you recommend hitting the snooze button in the morning? I know this is a point of
Yes, that's a great question. We do not, actually. And the reason for that, again, is developing that routine. If you're needing to hit the snooze button, you're really only getting another generally 9 or 10 minutes of sleep, which isn't enough to get you into a sleep pattern that actually helps your brain development or your physical state. So we don't recommend the snooze button. What I would recommend, if you feel like you need the snooze button all the time, try taking that 9 or 10 minutes and giving it to yourself the previous evening. Get yourself to bed 9 or 10 minutes earlier, and then start to build that pattern so that hopefully you're getting better, more restful sleep, and that you can feel like you're ready to get up when that alarm goes off.
And from Connie, is there a benefit to drinking hot tea that is not caffeinated at bedtime?
So, according to the science, there's not a correlation that they've seen that it does. However, non-caffeinated beverages, particularly warm beverages, can have a soothing effect for us. So, anecdotally, we say if it's a non-caffeinated beverage and you feel like it relaxes you, then there's absolutely no reason that you shouldn't go ahead and enjoy that. Great questions, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Jenny, thank you so much for that really interesting presentation. I feel like I learned a lot of things about sleep in general, as well as sort of, what we can do to improve sleep for ourselves, depending on what our own particular issues might be that are causing us to maybe not get enough sleep. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. We hope to see you next week. Thank you.